Good morning. Today is a very special day. It's the birthday and yahrzeit of the Mittler Rebbe, the second Rebbe of Chabad, who, by the way, put Lubavitch into Chabad Lubavitch because he's the Rebbe that moved to the town of Hilula on the day of his passing. It's a very auspicious day. In general, we say that somebody who was born and passed away on the same day, it is indicative of the type of life that they lived. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, he was born on the 7th of Adar and passed away on the 7th of Adar. It's showing us that his entire life was complete, was whole, from day to day. So the Mittler Rebbe, whose yahrzeit is today, also was born on the same day, indicating the whole and the completeness of his life. I see that Facebook is not connecting so well today. However, the Rebbe actually tells us, interestingly, that there are many great righteous people, tzaddikim from prior generations, who we don't necessarily know when their birthday was. We know when they passed away, we don't know when their birthday was. And most likely, or probably, many of these people were born and passed away on the same day. And in that vein, we're going to learn a piece of Chassidus, which is from the Mittler Rebbe, but it's from the more of the deeper parts of Chassidus, from the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe. Now, in this mimer, the Rebbe is discussing the concept of learning Torah while singing, the concept of having a relationship with Torah in a way that's happy. Now, the question there is regarding David HaMelech and the way he describes his association with Torah and the mitzvahs of Torah. But the concept that I want to share today is a particular detail. When somebody learns Torah with song, we're just going to see what happens with the Facebook. When somebody learns Torah while singing, the idea of singing is, in Hebrew, is lezamer, to sing, or zmirais. You may be familiar with the term, which is songs. By the way, if you're on Facebook and it's not working, just come over to YouTube. It's a better connection today for some reason. But in any case, singing in Hebrew is lezamer, to sing, or zmirais, which are tunes. You may be familiar with Shabbos, zmirais, Shabbos tunes. The same word to sing is from the same root word as lezamer aritzim, to cut off twigs or things that are unwanted. If you're growing anything, you're cultivating a field, or you're dealing with vineyards or bushes, trees, you're trying to bring out fruit, part of that process is getting rid of the unwanted elements. Small twigs, small branches, you got to be lezamer, you got to cut them off. You got to remove them, end them. And the thing about it is that if you don't, then you run the course that even though you run the risk that even though you have something positive here, like fruit growing and so on, but it's going to get ruined, or you won't be able to get to it, or so on, because it has those twigs and things that are not supposed to be there. The same applies in spirituality. Everything in this world gets its energy, gets its sustenance from God. And Hashem doesn't want, obviously, evil and negativity in the world. So the way that he sustains them is in a very indirect way. The main source of sustenance, the main source of energy, directly is going to good, to positive, and so on. Now, because we have to have free choice in the world, there has to be the ability to make the wrong decision. There has to be the ability for reward and punishment. There has to be temptation. There has to be desire, and so on. You have to have an opposing side. You have to have the potential to do things which you shouldn't. And by overcoming those desires, not giving into those temptations, not doing the stuff that we don't want to, although we can, that gives us reward, that helps us achieve higher levels. We grow, we get stronger, and so on. One of the examples, actually in a letter from the Rebbe, is about working out. When a person goes to work out, so essentially you're overworking your muscle. you're putting strain on it. But that process breaks it down, and then it builds up even stronger. And the same idea is that when you're pressured or pushed, you have a hard time doing something or not doing something that you're supposed to do. It's refraining from doing something that you shouldn't. It actually makes you stronger. But these evil forces, known as klipa, the shell, the other side, where do they get their sustenance from? So there are two ways that they could get their chayas, they could get their energy. Way number one is if they go high enough, if they reach high enough in the chain of flow of spirituality to a place called makif. In a place called makif, which is very high up, it's before the normal process of things. On that level, there's no difference between light and dark. You don't have these gradations and this is good and this is bad. It's all godliness. It's such a raw state that it's not differentiating between good and bad. And if the klipa, for whatever reason, gets access to that higher level through our actions or through us allowing it to take place, then it'll receive those high levels, and it could even get some suckling of spiritual energy, which gives it sustenance. That's one way. So it goes high enough to makif, and over there it could achieve it. The other way is if it goes low enough. There's a level in Kabbalah known as Malchus, and when it gets to that level, there's no revelation of godliness. And because there's no revelation, everything is concealed. As far as that's concerned, anyone could get sustenance there. Anyone could get energy there because there's no revelation. So it doesn't stop any of the those that shouldn't from achieving it. In case this sounds like it's a mistake or it's a mess up in the system, it's not. This is, again, part of the process to enable free choice and to allow that if someone wants to do the wrong thing, if someone wants to get energy from the wrong places, it does exist. You're not forced to do good. Nobody is. That's how you can have reward for doing the right thing, because you chose to do it. That's how there can be consequences, because a person didn't have to. It may have been hard, but they went down that road. So we have two ways how klipa and the other side and evil could get sustenance and energy. When a person learns Torah, says the Rebbe Rashab, and he learns it with song, which probably means literally song, singing, and also means that there's a certain joy associated with the learning. He's happy to be learning, he's into it. That joy, that zmirais, has the same effect as lezamer, to cut off the twigs, to cut off the unwanted. And it's a double-edged sword. There are two, it says we say it in davening every day, the cherev pifiyos biyadam. The beginning of that verse in Tehillim and Psalms is Rabbi Maiskel Begraina, that we are exalting God, or they, which means the Jewish people that pray, we're exalting God in their throats, which means by singing, by talking, by relating God's praises. And the end of that verse is V'cherev pifiyos biyadam, that we have a sharp sword in their hand. And the idea of this sharp sword is that there's both sides are sharp. It's a double-edged sword, which allows us to get both sides that have to be eradicated. What are both sides? The side of the klipa, of the evil that goes high up and is able to get the energy from the level of makif, because there's no difference there between good and bad. And at the same time, we also want to get the other side, because it may get its sustenance from a lower level. But without getting into the technical way of how that sword operates, we see here that when a person learns Torah with joy, and a person sings when they learn the Torah, they have that zmira, it gives them the power and the ability to cut out negative forces. Because again, it exists in this world in this type of manner. Now, how do you reach that? How are you able to get that? So of course it's through the singing, but on a deeper level, it's when a person awakens the desire within their heart to connect to godliness. And there are two ways that you could awaken that, or two stages in that. You think about Hashem, you think about God's creation of the world and his relationship to the physicality, in the sense that he gives us the opportunity to do mitzvahs and so on. You think about Hashem's kindness. And as you explore this concept, and you contemplate and reflect on it and pray with it and so on, it leads you to a conclusion. And the conclusion that it leads you to is that we need to, that godliness is correct, that spirituality is the only way, and you start to feel this is what you want. The other level is that it's not a result known as a bechein. You came to the conclusion, and therefore it's the way it is. But it's more than that. It's while you're contemplating, during the process of thinking about godliness, you feel that it's the right thing. You feel that you want it. That's obviously a much higher level and a greater connection. But the concept is, the idea is that when a person evokes within himself that desire to connect to godliness, that interest to want to be closer to Hashem, that gives him access to those deep levels. That brings about that double-edged sword, if you will, that gets rid of the negativity on both sides. So in summary, on this day of the birthday and the Hilul of the Mittler Rebbe, when it comes to learning Torah, and all parts of Torah, the revealed parts and the hidden parts, which is Chassidus, let's not forget that when we learn, it has to be with joy, it has to be with singing. And when that happens, it helps us overcome and really eradicate any of the evil, any of the negative things that may exist. A wonderful day, and use out the holiness and the auspiciousness of today for the best. Be well.